Good evening. Another episode from Advice from the Elf, an Elf on the Inside. I have a friend with me tonight. Try to spice things up a little bit. This is my buddy Winston, and he thinks that he runs the place. He really thinks that he's in charge, and I'm kind of the dog. But he he just came in. He's a little bit hot. It's warm outside. Finally, after all the ice is gone and everything, we're finally back to warm. So, all right, are you out of here? You got something to do? All right, get going. You go do your stuff. Go make your own video. Go get your computer and make your video. Go ahead. Not sure if he's going to or not. So, we had the epic ice storm of last week, and now today it's 75 degrees. Welcome to Texas. So, a little bit of clean a couple things up. The last video, for some reason, the first 20-30 seconds was cut off, and by the time I realized it was too late in the night to be able to re-record it. So I apologize about that. Again, technical failures. Those will be the norm. In the last week, I personally have had 2 hard drives fail, one at work and one at home, which, for a guy like me, technically, I don't even know what that means, except for a guy came and fixed the one at work, and I'm going to spend money to fix the one at home. And hopefully after we fix them, the computer will work again. That's how it works. Okay, so today we're going to actually read 2 letters, and there's some great questions answered in these. One letter was very helpful to me, just the things that the elf answered. So let's start out with that letter. As you remember, or may not remember, from the last video, we were talking a little bit about inmates, and he'd had some interaction with some other inmates. And so, unbeknownst to me, after I'd made the video, he came back and picked up on that same line. He said, so back to the story. As I was saying, some states pay the inmates to work. The feds pay the inmates to work. Now, the first thing to consider is the idea normal people think of being paid is typically identified as minimum wage or better. That's simply not going to happen in prison. So go ahead and evict that thought from your mind, as it has nowhere in the realms of reality for this conversation. Like I said previously, Texas pays $0 to inmates. Federal prisons pay the inmate anywhere from $2.50 a month to from $2.50 a month to $200 a month. That's a pretty broad range for what from what I've seen here, where I'm in prison. I'm in a prison which has an industries factory, also known as Unicor. The average job pays around $20 a month, which is paid to guys that sweep floors, clean bathrooms, and wipe out windows and door handles. Skilled jobs like electricians, welders, plumbers, HVAC, carpenters, and painters typically earn between $35 and $75 a month. Unicor jobs start at 23 cents an hour and get as high as $1.30 an hour, but that requires being employed by Unicor for over 6 years. Sounds like China wages to me. The average workday is 7 hours long. I could get on board with that. Now, that's now that we're in the COVID protocols, we typically work between 55 and 70 hours a month. That's plenty. I really, let's talk to Biden about that. Depending on the inmate's grade of pay, it could be the difference between having hygiene and coffee or snacks or not. Take, for instance, the email system I'm using costs me 5 cents per minute that I have the screen open reading or typing, which can get reasonably expensive pretty quick. Right now, phone calls are free because of the COVID restrictions, but phone calls typically cost 26 cents per minute unless we're calling a local number, which then costs 6 cents a minute. 300 to 510 minutes a month can add up pretty quick. Those are weird numbers. I'm not sure why it's 300 to 510, but that must be based on his typical usage. I know the elf called me yesterday at work, and I got to it just at the end, and it hung up on me before I was able to accept the call. So unfortunately, I missed that call. So to get back to the letter. So to get back on topic, if you have a friend that is incarcerated and you're able to, it's always appreciated when funds are received. If you don't know the person personally, and when I say know, I mean know the person from prior to their incarceration, then never send money. I don't care what kind of sob story the stranger may tell you. In the end, it's most likely a story that's not only false, but one that the person had help coming up with to word it in a manner that would offer the help, in a manner that would cause you to offer the help, and the person could always say he never asked you for anything. You did it out of the kindness of your heart, which would only be half true. Strangers don't deserve your money, especially strangers in prison. They're in here for a reason. Never lose sight of that fact. The conversation with other inmates ended on the note that the guys that was released and sending money in may very well be a good friend, but he's definitely not sending money to what I would consider a good friend, because I knew you had been just released from prison and were out there trying to rebuild your life. The last thing I would ever accept from you is money. Life is hard enough without feeding the addictions or games of someone who is working on their next prison sentence while they haven't been released from their current prison sentence. Have a good night. So that gives us a little better idea about how the money thing goes in prison, and so why it's important that we take care of people who are there who we know, so that they can have those things that they stand in need of. The second letter that he wrote, he actually answered a couple questions that I asked for somebody who had asked a couple questions. So the first question was about if they keep the gay inmates and the straight inmates separate. And the ELF's response to that was no. In the state prisons, they typically separate inmates that have breast implants, so that would be nice, or a history of being extorted in. Okay, let me jump back again, because I'm sorry, I missed one question that he answered earlier. That question was, do people pay protection in prison? And the ELF said, yes, it happens. The system calls it extortion, and will press new charges against anyone that's caught doing so. Some people have been paying protection for so long that they actually prefer it because it completely removes them from any politics or group/gang activities. I will say that it is much less, something that occurs much less than it did 10 years ago. Then back to the gay question. He said typically still in the general population, they're just housed separately with the same privileges. So that was about the people who have breast implants or a history of being extorted. Either one of those people ends up being housed separately but with similar privileges. Federal prison does not in any way separate them as they used to in a manner similar to the states. But gay and transgender inmates sued and won the right to be treated and to not be treated and housed any differently. The difference in state prison, there is no say by an inmate who they are assigned a cell with. In the federal prison, inmates can and do have a say as to who they will and will not share a cell with, which that's really surprising to me. I thought when you were in there they just told you what to do, but obviously I know there was one situation where the elf was put in with somebody he really could see it wasn't going to work out with, and he ended up having to stay with him for a couple days, and then they moved him out. So you definitely in the federal prison do have some say on that. So those are a couple questions that we're asking and answers. If you guys have any more questions about what goes on inside in prison, or questions about the system itself as far as the court system or any of those things, but also just anything in your normal life. The elf can fix anything. He knows how to build anything. If you have any questions about anything in your life, he will also make some pretty salient points with just things in your personal life as well. So if you have any questions or things that you wonder about there, you can ask those questions as well. Again, I show the site to friends, anybody who might be interested in some of the things that we're presenting here. That'd be great. Subscribe if you'd like to subscribe. Throw a like at it, and as we continue to build this thing, we'll see where we can take it. I think we have a couple more years to get it built up to where when the elf is on the outside, he can take over and continue this channel going forward. Really appreciate everybody who logs on and takes a look at this. I appreciate you putting up with me and my inability to have a personality or show very much of it here. I'm trying to do better. Hopefully I will as we go along. I'll have Winston join in once in a while, since he's obviously much better looking. So until Tuesday, you guys have a great rest of your weekend and a great beginning to the week, and come back on Tuesday and we'll continue. Thanks a lot. Have a nice evening. Bye.